Growl, growl here, Panther fans, as today was the first day of full training camp. Starters and rookies were back in place. Many players were all rocked up and ready to go, while some had to take it easy. But one player had to be reminded to dial it down just a little bit for now. What? I'll have all the details from the first full practice of day one of training camp on this edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Welcome back, all you growlers. Thank you all so much for joining us on this edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Of course, you're growling with the one and only Mr. CeeLo, and thank you guys so much for joining me, as from here on out, it's going to be business, business, business. Make sure you guys stay cool. It is very hot down here in hot Georgia, and definitely make sure while you're chilling out with whatever favorite beverage or whatever cold icicle you choose or frozen pop you choose, make sure you're checking out Growlin' and Prowlin', or go over to my All Access NFL channel at Gridiron Gab Pro Style. And if there's a favorite team you'd like for me to jump on, I know there's some Falcon fans out there. Yeah. But I still am very caught up on the Falcons because they are our biggest rivalry, regardless of what anyone has to say, because I despise them the most. I'm surrounded by them. God damn! But I do love my Falcon fans. I do. They're good, very good fans to really talk with and converse about the game. But I got to give a growl out to some of my peeps. Michael, good show, CeeLo. The rookies need to grasp the opportunity and they can actually push the vets. Absolutely. See, Mike, you're making me you can't do that. See, this show is about camp, but, I appreciate it anyway. Yeah, definitely. That's what it's all about, especially with this youth movement we have going. Very big growl out to you, Michael. That's an excellent point. You definitely want to have your rookies pushing the vets. And unfortunately, when you do have vets on the team, you may have to let them walk because the rookies are doing such a phenomenal job. And that's also a good case of scouting as well as possibly good drafting as well. And Michael also went on to say, sign me up for the shirt, boss. It's getting there, brother. And I know a lot of y'all have hit me up in my inbox asking about the shirt. Please do that in the comments. I appreciate you paying attention to the Growlin' and Prowlin' Facebook page and the Facebook group. But hit me down here so I can add you to that list, because I want you to be in that drawing. And I know you guys are going to love the shirt. If you don't win a shirt, you're going to want to buy one. See, I'm trying different variations with it, but I can't tell you yet. I'm so excited about what I'm doing with this shirt. But I don't want to spend an hour and a half talking about that. I definitely want to get into the concept of this show because we got a lot of things to talk about. Pole Broken Lonely, one of my favorite subscribers, said, sign me up too, CeeLo. I got you, bud. But let's get into the business. As many of you know, Canales ended practice, and some thought it was early. I'm of the sense that when I heard the article and when it came out, it was getting to that very pivotal point where the sun is actually out and it's really starting to become a factor at the practice. So I wasn't so sure that this situation that occurred at practice had any type of relevance to what was going to happen after the fact, or whether or not practice was going to go along. But as many of you probably have heard, rookie linebacker, edge rusher, Princely Manumilan, made a great move, bend well, according to Dave Canales. But basically, Manumilan was able to generate pressure, had sensational bend, according to Morgan as well as Canales, with great speed, which is what they want him to do. But he did the one thing you're not supposed to do with your franchise quarterback, was you're not supposed to make contact with the black jersey. That's just not what you're supposed to do. And unfortunately, Canales handled it. And well, not necessarily unfortunately, it's basically a situation where he had to actually use this as a teaching moment. And according to him, he said this went a little over the top. Manumilan managed to generate pressure on Bryce, who cannot be touched under any circumstances. The first-year pro forgot for a second, stripping the football from his grasp, something that forced head coach into drastic action. And drastic meaning he probably got loud, which is something he very rarely does, but he does get animated at times, and probably checked the young rookie, which from what we hear, he was open to doing. But as it says, it was another teaching moment for Dave Canales. Practice concluded slightly before time, and Manumilan was left in no doubt about the standards moving forward. Bryce Young, of course, responded. According to Joe Pearson, he said there's a certain etiquette in football that a young guy just needed to be reminded of. And this is where I thought ultimately, this isn't college. The quote where this isn't college. Young is a franchise quarterback and should be treated as such.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Somebody other than me has said that. I'm glad somebody sees it now. And this is true. We're not going to go on that because, believe it or not, this is good. But at the same time, we also got to realize the Panthers were not in pads. They're in shorts and jerseys and a helmet. You know, you're really going to know what's going to be who's going to be what and what's going to be what when you finally get some pads on these guys, when they can get their hands on you and really do what they need to do, put you in the dirt. I mean, at this point, yeah, it's impressive, but not nearly as impressive as it would be if these guys were actually in pads, so to speak. I love the fact that Manumilan is he's doing now, but it's going to be even more impressive if he's able to get his pads on. Do like to see that energy already, but this is the first day. Guys are trying to get themselves back in shape, as well as getting themselves quick yet again. As it was said when it went along in this story, Manumilan can fire off at will against the opposition in a typical game day setting, and until then, reining it in is not only desired, it's demanded. See, you see that Dave Canales now has control of this football team. And I'm not just talking about control. He has his imprint on this team for the Panthers to leave a mark. And when you have that as a coach, which is something the Panthers have not had here since Ron Rivera's days, this is his team in his second year. Panther Nation, we can be positive in looking at this team and saying, we may have our guy. No, I'm not going to say we may. We have our guy. And the reason being is that it was the first session overall, and Canales put his stamp. When we get to the playoffs this season, you heard me, and possibly a championship, we need to look back at this overall training camp. Many people say the first session can define your entire season. Mark my words, Panther Nation, this is going to have a resounding effect on our season. It was a positive first session overall. Things might have ended on something of a sour note for Manumilan, but there will be no bad blood or resentment from anyone in the locker room. These things happen. It's football, but the message from Canales was abundantly clear, and that's what I like to hear. If Dave Canales ringed it in and he handled it and you don't hear anybody else discussing it, it's done. There was also a report that said Bryce himself didn't seem bothered by Uman Milan's effort. It's competition. It's football. After practice. Obviously, there's an etiquette stuff in football, but young guy getting after his first day out here in training camp. And shoot, we want to see those plays on Sunday. And Bryce is absolutely right. Going there in a sense and putting his guy on notice, but also letting his guy know we want to see that on Sunday. Keep it up. Keep working hard. And that's what we want. This is the thing that guys like Julian Council on another podcast will say, I'm not still sold on this room. But I get it. It's the first day. But if Umanya Milan comes out and does what he does, ooh. Which brings me to a point that really bothered me. Outside of the few things that happened, there were a couple of things that happened outside of that strip sack. On the first play, if I recall correctly, one of the first plays anyway, Bryce threw a pick to Damani Richardson, which surprised me because Nick Scott is considered the other starting safety beside Travion Moore.
What the
Bruh. I hope this changes. Now, I get it. I didn't see the play where Bryce threw the interception. But if Damani Richardson is showing any signs of being that same dude he was coming into last season, if not Lathan Ransom, Damani Richardson, will you?
Damn, I'm good.
Yoo-hoo. I'll make you famous. I'll make you famous.
But in my eyes, I'm looking at what needs to go down as far as making the positive moves that are going to put the Panthers in the best position. I know people are going to say this is the first training camp and they're not even in pads yet. I get it. I understand it. But the realistic thought process going into this has to be you need to have the best players that give you the best opportunity to do what you're doing. And that being Ichiro Avero being able to not only select his players, but to be able to put his guys out there in the best situation he can to be successful. And for this defense to be successful. When Canales spoke with the press afterwards, he said that Tommy Tremble won't probably practice in the next 2 weeks, but he did not rule out 4 weeks, which would put him ahead of schedule. And that's a very good thing considering what we were looking at, of course, right there before everything took place. Because reality is that we were looking at other tight ends. And honestly, I understand people are concerned about the tight end, especially the type of system that Dave Canales wants to play. And it's totally understandable. But as I said, there's got to be baby steps that's taken in training camp 1. Mitchell Evans is going to be, to me, he's going to be a guy that if you guys sleep on, you're going to be surprised. I'm just going to be honest. And I just love the fact that Dave Canales is giving all of these guys the opportunity. He's definitely going to look at the guys that we have on this roster. He's definitely looking at trying to go young. But of course, you guys know about the loss of Josie Jewell. And of course, the loss of Bobby Brown. So we definitely hope that we can get some things accomplished there. I'm interested to see the Panthers look like with Cam Jackson in there. Because honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I cannot wait to see what this guy looks like. The big 330-pounder out of Florida. I cannot wait to see what he would look like. But I don't want to see him in a starting role because a lot of people question his effort at Florida. There were times they felt like he took plays off. And, in a defense where we struggled last season stopping the run, especially in the middle portions of it. And that has a lot to do with Derek Brown not being available. We definitely need his presence there every single down. And when you get a guy that's over 330 like this guy is, conditioning is huge. But in other news, as I said, we talked about Tommy Tremble, but we also, another guy, an outside linebacker, edge guy, DJ Wanham, is on a slow kind of push-up to practice. He's not really going full speed, and what Canales calls a couple of little things that may be holding him back from being where he needs to be. But ultimately, he's trending towards being ready. They didn't give a timetable, but it was positive. But when you think about Umar Yamilin's progress and what it looks like so far, now this is without the pads, you guys. So anybody can be a world beater coming around the corner or coming around the edge without pads, but that's what it looks like so far. But Dave Canales had great things to say at the press conference. He said, "I don't think people are going to want to play us. I don't think so either. With the things they have on offense, with the weapons they have in Ted McMillan and I say a question mark Xavier Legette, because I got a feeling there's a lot he could have done last season without those nagging injuries he had. I think we're just scratching the surface. But I will retract a statement I said on the show, because I don't think the Carolina Panthers draft Tetairoa McMillan had we not gotten rid of Jonathan Mingo. So I'm one that I believe that Mingo would have gotten more of a shot, because now you're seeing more people question Xavier Legette, where 6 months ago you had people defending him. Now you're starting to see more people holding him accountable. And that was the same thing with Mingo last year. He had relatively the same numbers, with the exception Bryce Young was playing better and than Mingo did. And Bryce Young's playing better for Xavier Legette than he was with Mingo, which allowed Legette to catch those 4 touchdown grabs, because Bryce was more confident and he was a lot more into the scheme of what Canales was doing, whereas Wright was already out the door and he had no clue as to what was going on. Thomas Brown was the guy that was calling plays. So, in essence, Dave Canales also said, I think the sky's the limit for this group. I think this is going to be a very competitive team. So do I. I think they're going to be a very competitive team. If we can get that back end right, and really, the only piece is that free safety. Nick Scott's just not the guy for this defense. I think if you're going to go with a guy, you don't need to go with a guy that's just going to be safe. You need to go with a guy, Damani Richardson. He looked good. But probably a piece of news that kind of went under the wire, that the Panthers had picked up a cornerback in Trey Swilling. Of course, Swilling's a New Orleans, Louisiana native, played for 4 collegiate campaigns at Georgia Tech over 43 games from 2018 to 21. He amassed 101 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, and 3 fumble recoveries for the Jackets. 6'1", 196 pounder that cracked into the NFL as an undrafted free agency with the Tennessee Titans in 22. He also picked up stints with the Saints, 49ers, Ravens, and Jets. Swilling has appeared in 3 games during his NFL career, 2 with the 49ers in 23, and 1 with New York in 24. All 36 of his snaps have come on special teams. And the Panthers had to waive Ethan Garbers, an undrafted free agent signee from this past spring. Garber passed for 27-27, 16 touchdowns and 11 interceptions as UCLA starter in 24. Now the Panthers are left with only 3 quarterbacks on the roster, of course. Bryce Young as the franchise quarterback, Andy Dalton as the storied backup, and of course Jack Plummer, the relative unknown, who more than likely will be starting majority of the preseason. Now, before we get out of here tonight, I just want to give you guys also another update, as I am still putting the finishing touches on those shirts, as you guys already know. Make sure you put your name down in the comments at the end of the show, as well as your real comments on the show and questions that you guys might have before we get out of here. But that's going to do it for the show. Make sure you go by my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can find out all the do's and don'ts and all the ins and outs that I got going on Instagram. Also, go to the Facebook page at Growlin' and Prowlin' and join the group as well of the same name, Growlin' and Prowlin', so you can catch up on all the shenanigans I may be getting you guys caught up in. as well as polls that will be taken. Finally, make sure you like and subscribe to the show if you want to keep getting these great shows. I call them great. And this insider information, well, not actually insider information, but opinions nonetheless, and great conversation that we can carry on and possibly interact with. But until the next time, keep prowling the airwaves and keep growling out. Keep pounding.